the door where you go to football, right? Where all the stuff is located, and nobody used the door. And then our director said, "Hey, can we use that door?" And there's a coach said, "Yeah, that's actually quite smart." So half of the game, you saw a very big pink easytoys door in the game.
So, hey, Patrique, welcome to the Redefine Growth podcast. We're going to talk about how companies redefine growth. You're the head of growth of easytoys, one of the fastest growing e-com shops in the Netherlands. I'm super excited to have you here. I think it's going to be a super interesting episode. We're going to talk about growth. Maybe a short introduction of yourself.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Start introduction, head of growth. Actually, I got also a new function since Monday. I became the head of B2C, but growth is still in my job function. So I'm quite happy with that. So a small introduction of myself. I'm 32 years old. Started around 13 years ago at easytoys, which is now ecommerce with a lot of different labels like Christine Leduc, Taboo for people in the Netherlands. But for the international, Amorelli, Condomeria, Norway. So a lot of labels. I've done a lot of things within the organization, from CRM marketing to Google Ads, SEA specialist. I've been a marketing manager for a long time. And I always say the sky is not the limit, because we always say sky, but I would rather say sky is not the limit, because we always need to find a way to gain growth and to do exceptional things and find ways where other people aren't going.
So you got quite some experience, and Sprints and Sneakers became the fourth fastest growing company of the Netherlands in the small category. And if I remember correctly, I think it was 2022, easytoys won the Golden FD Gezellen. Of fastest growing, I think in the bigger category. What do you think is the key in the success of easytoys? And why are they capable of growing so fast? Also, taking into account the experience that you have over the last 13 years as a marketeer.
So that's a very good question. Try to answer it in one sentence. I can't. then everybody would do it. But no, I think the fact is that we as an organization always look at opportunities, but also to challenge people internally. So it's all about the ownership within the organization. What are you allowed to do, and how can you break through? So a lot of words, didn't say anything yet, but what I mean with that is if you come up with a great idea within the organization, and it doesn't matter on which position you are, if it's a great idea, well, let's go for it, do it, and go ahead. So in that meaning, we were always from an entrepreneurial way of working. And that's also what I always added when I made a job function for a person. I said, it doesn't matter if you are highly skilled in, for example, Google Ads. I rather have someone who is like, hey, what opportunities are there and how can I be an entrepreneur? So I always said a good marketer who wants to realize growth is an entrepreneur. Of course, you don't need 100 people in and 100 team. We're all entrepreneurship, because you also need the people who say, hey, calm the shit down and work also on things instead of coming up with a lot of ideas and experimenting. But I think the biggest thing is, and that's also what I always remind everyone of, did you test it? Did you experiment? And how can you keep on trying new things, experimenting? And I always like to say in our business that we are trisexuals, because it connects, of course, to easytoys. But we try a lot of new things all the time and hope for the best. And we always do it in such a way that it is small but scalable. And if it's not scalable, then it's not worth my time unless it's a one-time big hit idea. So it depends on is this a hero moment or is this something which we can build upon? And that's what we actually did in all our years. Like, okay, we built a foundation, we create something small. Hey, this works. Okay, then we expand on it and make it bigger. Does that make sense, or do I?
That totally makes sense, yeah. And it's interesting to say that it's about experimentation because obviously we like to experiment a lot, and but I also think that you need a certain culture or infrastructure to be capable of doing that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you are able to succeed in running these experiments and giving people the autonomy to come up with these experiments and actually execute them and also know what works and what doesn't work? Because it sounds like an ideal situation. Everybody is capable of coming up with ideas and we're willing to test it and we'll see it. But how does it work practically? Because I think you need a certain infrastructure and culture to be capable of doing that. How did you realize that?
Well, it depends also on the managers, depends on the people. So it's not as easy as like, okay, we want to experiment, so we're going to experiment. You also need people in the different teams. So it starts from who do we hire? So if we hire someone who is a high initiative taker, is it someone who drive is to be very ambitious, to try things, very independent. Sometimes I'm asking too much of people, so you can imagine. Maybe you can imagine, maybe you can't. But sometimes I add someone in the team, and then I said, "Okay, good luck. This is what you do. Here's the tool. Good luck." And then they say, "You didn't explain the tool." And then I'm like, but you can Google a bit first yourself, right? And sometimes people really like it, and sometimes people are like, "I need more guidelines. Be more clearer." That's also a great learning for myself because I sometimes forget to set guidelines. And if you do not set guidelines, then sometimes the work is never ending and the project becomes much too big. But in our organization, as I said, it depends on the manager because some managers are rather in control. And when a manager is in control, then the team has less impact on ideas because the manager decides. And in some teams, the manager is like, okay, come up with great ideas, test it, set some guidelines for it, and within those guidelines, try to break through. But I'm also one of the persons who is actually always trying new things, and I just throw them over to the other team. So I'm basically start something. Mostly I see, okay, this works a bit, and now someone needs to really deep dive in it to make it work. But if I feel there is an opportunity, or I think, hey, this is something which we can work on, we do that. And I think also how this came to happen to easytoys is also a bit of a natural way, because we were very challenged when it comes to marketing when we started. So we were actually not allowed to advertise on a lot of platforms. We were not allowed on social media. We're not allowed, actually also not allowed on Google when we started. And we started really as a performance team. And then we said, okay, how can we break through? How can we talk with organizations? And what can we do differently? So we were always challenged to get things online. And I think that also creates a lot of creativity in how the things you do it, because you're already happy if a channel works. So then it's like, if someone comes, hey, I have an idea, go ahead. If you can fix it, nice, because then we have something. So that's also how it started. So, and then you of course want to build upon that, because you see, hey, this works. And we also have our CEO of our company, the owner. He's also very creative. So he comes also with hundreds of thousands of ideas, and then he says, hey, we can do this and we can do this. So still from operational to management is very short lines nowadays still.
That's interesting to hear. So even the top level management is involved in some experiments that you do. And I imagine it sounds a bit like a startup thing, right? You have these challenges that you need to overcome. It's not easy. You might have limited budgets, but then you grow up, right? And now you're a pretty significant ecom player in the Netherlands. Um, is that still the case, right? Does that change because the budgets probably increase and the culture might change a little bit? But is that still the case right now? Because you're talking about the challenges, but now you're capable of advertising, etc. So how is that now?
Yeah, now it's a bit different. So now it's so we are losing. We are actually already out of our startup, and we are more in a scale up. But we grow really, really fast. So we still have the pain of the scale up. You can imagine in 2022 2021 2022 we almost doubled revenue during Corona time, and we also doubled in employees. So we have a lot of people.
So that's what people were doing during Corona, huh?
Yes, working at us, and we had a lot of people joining digitally. So that's a big culture change because normally you work in the office, you meet each other, you feel how is the office vibe. Now the office vibe is of course a bit different because you see each other after a year of Corona, so to say. But to say, how are we changed? Yeah, we have a lot of opportunities in channels now. We still do not have, how do you say it? We're still not game over in all channels. We talk about the channels, so there is a lot of optimization going on. Sometimes, in my opinion, a bit too much, depending on the question of higher management. I'm myself also in higher management, so sometimes I'm the one responsible for doing that. But we still try to keep in that experiment way of working, also working actually on a concept in the organization where we say, okay, how can we keep that spirit alive? I'm one of I love it, so I'm one of the ambassadors of keeping that spirit alive. Like, okay, what are we going to test? What are we doing? Of course, we have a more professional CRO team as well. So if we look from an e-commerce perspective, we now also know what our losers are, where in the past we just put things online and say, okay, let's see if our incremental revenue is increasing. If not, okay, it didn't work. And now you have a professional EB test stack behind that. So these are the advantages, and we're getting more data driven every day. So yes, sometimes we have a bit more process, but on the other hand, we also know better why some things are working, because sometimes you do something, and I always said trial and error marketing, but trial and error marketing is becoming more data and error marketing, and it gives you a lot of insights. And those insights can help you further than you knew of before, because you now also know what your negatives are and how to influence these negatives to positives, or at least not using the negatives in your setup because you know these are affecting your business negative.
Yeah, and what I often also say is creativity is amazing, of course, but it should be backed by data. And obviously nowadays, you got so much data available that it's not only gut feeling anymore. Sometimes you can get your ideas from the data, and from there on be creative and test it again and look at the data in a circle in that way. But so it sounds like you got quite an experimental culture, and you've been doing that for quite a while. What is the one experiment that you're willing to share with the listeners that was super successful for easytoys?
Well, that's well, it's not for easytoys, but for one of our labels. Actually,
That's okay.
it's a very easy one. Maybe it's better in our industry, but I don't know. We in some countries we have to ask for phone numbers because of the supplier who sends the packaging, and we talked with the supplier, asked like, hey, can we make this optional? And actually, when we made it optional, it sounds like, okay, makes sense, but when we made it optional, the the conversion rate increased with around 5 to 10% in the shopping cart, which is a huge effect. So the thing what I want to say in that is like you can have extra fields in your shopping cart, in your checkout, which looks quite interesting, like for example gender or whatever you want to know, but which is actually unnecessary. I would delete all unnecessary information you need, because that's a conversion killer first class, and it creates a huge impact on your business. Which sometimes is really nice. If you have it all wrong now, then be a very happy person, because that's an easy win.
And it was always the balance between gathering as much data as possible, or rather have your conversion optimized as and not too many fields, because it's it's killing conversion. But I also think people should keep in mind that the moment when you're asking something, right? So make it as easy as possible to pay, right? So for example, you have fast checkouts, PayPal, and it's like a couple of clicks, and then you paid, and then afterwards you can say, hey, for the delivery you need your phone number. At least the order is in, and then you can still always ask for additional data that you can fill your CDP with. But yeah, I think this is a super nice experiment and worth testing. Deleting fields or maybe adding fields at a different stage in the process of buying, and also thinking about what do I really need to know, what do I want to know, and when am I asking for that information.
We do the same actually on the thank you page, where we actually ask people like, okay, hey, you ordered now, but do you want to have your saving points added? Create an account now. So they didn't create an account, and then we know, okay, create an account. And then it's up to the customer, but it helps.
Yeah, for sure. And is there a strategy behind gathering data from your customers? Is that part of the growth strategy?
Well, we try to gather as less as possible and as much as needed, because we try to be as anonymous. We promise to be anonymous, and that's what we actually do. So data we collect is only for statistics which cannot be led to a personal account. But for accounts, we like to have as much people logged in, because of cookie depreciation, so that we know, hey, which channels are active, where are our customers, where are our customers going, and of course, which is quite an important one, is abandoned cart email, because a lot of people leave the checkout, and that could be because of errors in the checkout which we don't know of, or at that moment, and we see quite a lot of people who leave their cart are actually later on purchasing again. So
and in that case, if you have a phone number, you could even do like an abandoned WhatsApp or SMS text message. But I also think in your case, it's quite, you have to be sensitive in terms of privacy, and people. It would be fun to send like a huge box with the easytoys logo on it and start shipping products like that.
Well, actually,
we'll be surprised.
We actually had an idea that once, so we didn't do it, but we still, maybe it will be in the future, where we actually ask the consumer, because I think the best commercial outside you have is litter day, where people pick up all the carton boxes and things like that, and we wanted to make it free for people who are, for example, but it's quite a hard process to set that up internally, but to make it free for people who order a pink box, where easytoys is big on that. You can say, okay, you get free delivery anytime, but then we deliver you in a pink box, that the consumer has the choice, because we do not want to make the choice for them. But it could be quite a fun experiment. So then we lose some money on the shipping, but we get it back in street commercials, so to say.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea, and it's worth testing, or just on the 1st of April. And maybe it's good to joke around a little bit with pink boxes all over the Netherlands. That's super interesting. And what was an experiment where you expected a lot from, but actually didn't work?
Oh, that's a very good question. I normally tend to forget those. Uh, now,
Well, maybe you should write them down somewhere, so not someone else is doing the same thing after 6 months. But yeah, I get that
no,
feeling.
if I look from a CRO team, they are doing that quite well. Actually, they write everything down. Yeah, worst case, what I ever did. Can you call it an experiment? Uh, I I tried, for example, with my team members. We are also active in Poland, and I said, let's do a cinema commercial. The colleague of mine came with me, yeah, cinema, and I was like Googling what is the effect of cinema, because I never did cinema, and I was like, okay, are we allowed to? Yeah, sure, we are allowed to in Poland. So we had the biggest cinema in Poland, and then I said, you know what, we're going to do it. And it was actually quite expensive, but like 20 times cheaper than in the Netherlands, and it was cheaper than television. And I said, it's cheaper than television, it's 7 times more effective. I said, let's do it. So I said, we'll do it for 3 months, because we need to have a certain impact, so that we can see, do we have an increase in incremental revenue? Do we see an increase in brand searches? Do we see an increase in direct traffic? Do we see anything happening when we spend that much? And we had a reach of 700,000 people a month. So I said, okay, that's enough traction to see at least something. And we had a very fun commercial, which we actually used in the Netherlands, where we saw someone grabbing popcorn from out of an easytoys popcorn bag or something. And then it was a little bit sexual suggestive. So I was like, okay, this is quite interesting to be in a cinema with a cinema commercial. I said, but it could also be that people don't understand, because they don't know a brand that big in Poland. So after 3 months, we didn't see an increase in incremental revenue. We didn't see an increase in direct traffic. We didn't see an increase in brand searches, and we spent a shit ton of money. So I can definitely say that was... but I can't say that I have the full learning, because we don't know if the asset was correct. So the next time we try something like this, we probably are going to do something, okay, let's do it for a week. Then ask the cinema if we can ask people who come out of hey, did you see this commercial? Did you know which brand it is? Do you know what they stand for? Something like that, so that we get a bit more specifics on the asset. And the difference between, for example, advertising, what I have learned, because probably people who are listening in, maybe say, yeah, you're crazy, and that's fine. There are normal people, crazy people.
They're right. I know you a bit.
Yeah, probably right. So what I tend to notice is that in the Netherlands, when we look at media suppliers, if it comes from television to radio to whatsoever, they mostly have their own creative teams, and they understand their target audience a bit better than when we see buying media, for example, in external countries. For example, like Poland, where we see that they say, okay, yeah, we are just the medium. You buy, you are the creative person, and we just put it online. So, and that's a big difference, of course, because they say, yeah, okay, this is our audience. Good luck and have fun. And where in the Netherlands they say, okay, good luck, but they want you to be as successful as possible, because then you keep on paying.
Yes.
So that's a big difference.
And I think it's interesting what you're saying, that you want to have that qualitative feedback on the quality of your campaign. And I remember when I was studying in the University of Rotterdam, this is a long time ago, they already had a tool there where they based on the camera that you're using, they could look at your skin color, and based on your skin color, you can see if your heart rate went up or down.
Oh,
so
that's
if they
nice.
were showing content, they could actually analyze the sentiment or the feeling, the emotion of the person. So there are ways actually to test your content, and I think it's a super good idea. Just when you're, especially when you're spending that amount of money, to have some validation on the quality of the campaign that you come up with before like launching it on a national scale or spending that much money on it.
Welcome
But
to
this is
Patrique.
old school versus new school. Old school versus new school. Old school would be some creatives come up with a campaign with a huge budget and we push it out there and hope that it works. I think a little bit of experimentation and iteration could be beneficial there as well. So amazing thing that didn't work. So what did work? Did you have some viral campaign? What was the most successful marketing acquisition strategy that you came up with in the past?
I can say that that's fully on to me, but everybody knows about it. I mean, when we in the Netherlands, we know the FCM spectacle, but that was also because of all the consumers that it became actually successful. So it's not fully up to us. We only said, hey, it's quite interesting to sponsor a football team. We were already sponsoring FC Groningen and FC Emmen. We were sponsoring it very small as a Groningen actually, but we were sponsoring them. We actually had something nobody had, which is now an extra selling thing. It's actually quite nice. I didn't think of it, but our director did. You have the door where you go to football, right? Where all the stuff is located, and nobody used the door. And then our director said, "Hey, can we use that door?" And that's a Groningen said, "Yeah, that's actually quite smart." So half of the game, you saw a very big pink easytoys door in the game, which was actually quite a unique spot to have, and that's also quite interesting. Going back to SAM. Yeah, why was it very successful and viral? And I think we have hundreds of examples after that, of hundreds. Okay, I'm now bragging, but we have a lot of examples after that which went viral. But SAM, yeah, somehow people were, not people, but the football, soccer was against it. How do you call it? The people who are making the rules, the KNVB. So yeah, based on that, it became a big show. First of all, we were like, oh shit, this is not what we wanted to create. We saw a good sponsor deal. We said, it's very nice. It will probably be a bit, it will probably go against a bit of people, but it will be a bit rebel, but it won't be
a bit on the edge.
A bit on the edge, but nothing too harsh. And it also fitted that club. That club also liked to be a bit on the edge. So we said, okay, that's a great fit. And based on that great fit, we said, yeah, we're going to do this. Then the whole show started, of course, with that we came on television about that we were struggling as a sex toy brand, which couldn't advertise, which is the normal, which is most normal business of everyone's life. And then we had all those consumers with a positive sentiment about it. And that made it work quite well. And I always said, if we were a very small shop at that moment, because we were, of course, already building our brand, and I think if we were a very small shop, that it maybe could have gone otherwise. So people already knew easytoys a bit. I didn't say that the whole Netherlands, but that was definitely a moment where we... I think we got over, if I've seen the numbers correctly, over 500 million impressions in a year time, only based on the FCM event, which is a natural impression. So not an impression which is bought through display or whatsoever. And that's a very effective impression, so to say. So it was quite...
I remember also you did something at the stadium, I guess to make it a little bit more edgy, right? With the entrance.
No, we didn't do that actually, and it was no. A lot of people think we did it, and it actually never existed. It was photoshopped by a fan of FCM. So
really?
Yeah, it was fake. It was fake news, and we didn't have anything to do with it.
So for the people listening, it was I'm not sure how to say that in English, but like an air doll or something like a big. Do you know the English word for it?
Yeah, it was an air doll. But it looks like if you walked in the vagina of the air doll at the stadium, but it was photoshopped.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was an amazing campaign of you.
No,
But it's
that's
this was a very smart move. So what can other brands learn from it, and how can they copy this strategy? Or where
well.
should they look for?
Well, I can't say that they can copy a viral strategy because viral is always also depending a bit of luck. But when we look at sponsorships, because it's a big sponsorship, yeah, we said it connects well with us. It has a huge target audience which could be interested in our products. We also knew that it was not a main audience. When football is mostly male audience, a little bit older. Um, but yeah, the message around, but football is in the Netherlands the number one sport. So you're going to touch a sport where everybody has an opinion about, and I think that makes it more a highly likelihood to have a chance on virality if you touch something where everybody has an opinion about. Um, so what can brands learn from that? Yeah, if you see an opportunity where you can calculate the numbers, because I also pre-calculated the numbers, like, hey, is this cost efficient? It sounds a bit boring, but I always look at something: is it cost efficient, and what could I buy otherwise for it? So if you
Hmm.
see a sponsorship and you know what the reach is, you know what television hours you get, you know what GEPs you get, versus what could you have bought in commercials, or what could you have bought in online social media presence. And then I always take a my own effectiveness number, because I can't find something which is stated in marketing science, and I'm not a marketing science man when it comes to I don't know, scientist. Well, I'm not a scientist, so based on that, I said I give it an effectiveness based on a good feeling, and sometimes good feelings are very wrong, but. If I watch television and I get a normal commercial, I skip. And I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, but if I'm watching a football game, then I'm honestly interested in watching that football game. So what I see there has a higher impact on what I'm doing, because I'm concentrating on the game. So I'm
Yeah.
fully, my attention goes there. Where at a commercial, my attention goes everywhere. I take my phone, I take whatever I'm going to do, doing the dishes. So it's all about having a bit of gut feeling and try to get as much data in as possible. And then a sponsorship can be really interesting, but it's also, and if we look at virality campaigns, yeah, you also have, and I know it sounds awful, but virality campaigns are mostly not going by themselves. So for the FC Emmen, we of course we were also working with PR. We are going to publish this. We are going to try to get the media in. So even if we don't know if it would be effective or what's going to happen, always have a plan behind. Like, okay, how can I create an environment where it goes viral? The same counts for an influencer campaign, where you say, okay, I have a very awesome campaign, and people need to believe that other people are sharing that. Well, you can buy the first 100 people who are going to share that for you. Well, it looks like it's organically starting, but mostly there is a company behind it
Supported, yeah, yeah.
who supported it at least a bit to make that fire start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. My take from this campaign is that it's a bit on the edge, right? It's a bit controversial. So the soccer and the easytoys brand. So like you said, people have opinion about it. It's easy to write about it, to give your opinion about it. So PR wise, it's I think a clever move. And one of the things you're saying, and I totally agree with it, is an impression on X, or it used to be Twitter, or Meta, or television, or watching a soccer game. There's a difference, right? We're talking about CPM, reaching amount of people, but how do you reach them? What's their attention at that moment? And so an impression on television is different than an impression on Meta, right? And what are you currently doing in the meanwhile, and what's the effect on the people that are watching it? So I think it's good to always compare channels, and like you were saying, also look at the investment that you're making, and the potential return that you will get. Also taking into account the attention that people have, and also that television normally is for the bigger brands, but maybe if you want to position yourself as a bigger brand, you might save some budget and get on TV, because you might be seen as a bigger brand by using TV.
Yeah, I also believe that actually when you're on television, you're a bigger brand, and I believe in Belgium that concept of television is even higher. I think in the Netherlands, it's don't want to ruin the television people here, but I believe in if we look at the Belgium versus the Netherlands, then Belgium still has a very high worth from a consumer way of view, that they say, okay, you're on television, you cannot be on television if you're not a trustworthy brand. So immediately increase your brand to, hey, that's a trustworthy brand, because television shows do their checks. Well, in the Netherlands, we are a bit more skeptical. So there the consumer view is a little bit less in that case, but it's still true that if you represent as a big brand when you're on television.
Yeah, talking about representing your brand, you spoke about a campaign in Poland, so you're expanding internationally. What are the key learnings that you can share with other e-com brands when expanding internationally? Because I think a lot of them often also too soon are looking at other countries. But what can you explain about expanding to different countries and share your learnings about it?
So I can tell a lot about that. I can also share two visions, because it's quite fun actually. I talked on the Dex part, I believe. I talked on border e-commerce, and the fun thing was before me was the representative of Shopify, and they told exactly what I did that you shouldn't do. So they told the opposite of mine, and my story came behind it, and I was like, oh shit, this will be quite fun, because people were also, I saw the same people sitting in the presentation. So I will tell you what made it a bit easier from my role. From our organization, we already had a B2B, and we also have a B2B organization. So we sell to retail, we sell to other suppliers, we do a ton of that. So we were already selling internationally. So the logistics within our organization were already set up to send out to different parts in the world. So that makes it already a bit more easier, because you have one logistics center where you can send to all of Europe, to the US. So it starts at the basics, having a good logistic system so that you can actually send it to the other countries, also in the volumes you want to go.
And then Amazon fulfillment, or do you have your own?
We have our own fulfillment, but we have the Amazon Prime status actually since this year, so we're quite happy with that.
Nice.
Our own fulfillment center with Prime status. Yay! But for if you have fulfillment, it could be definitely an option. I wouldn't say if it's bad or good, because I don't know from experience of that. I think whatever works for you, but what I've seen, and what I will say counterwise versus Shopify, is we just put a shop live in the best way we know. So we made a boiler template of what we had. We said, okay, let's translate it roughly. We used the roughly translation service from Google. We use natives to check to get the biggest mistakes out. And based on that, we said, okay, let's go live. And we started in what we were good in the Netherlands. And we said, okay, we are really good at performance marketing. Let's start with performance marketing. We know what the effect of brand is. Okay, let's add a brand layer as well. And then we just started, and we started selling we started advertising, and based on that, we started selling. We started with SEO because we knew it would take a long time, and we did this in 7 countries at once. Where Shopify would say, see how to localize your stuff first, then translate very well, and then start, which is a longer way, but could be more efficient on the long term. But it also means that you need to invest a lot of money at the start without knowing what your basic level is in that country. So, and what I mean with the basic level in that country is you have your own payment systems, you have your own logistics. So, and maybe you need new contracts for better logistics centers to localize your logistics to the preferred delivery method of the country. And that's definitely something we're still looking into, because that's really hard to accomplish. But it's probably expecting much better for your conversion rate. So and the same counts for payment methods. We have all the payment methods now, but we didn't start there. We just said, okay, what's our basic number? And based on our basic number, we knew what we needed to change. We knew what we needed to optimize. But at least we knew which country was actually strong for us. And in this way, you can test countries quite rapidly, without having a huge investment case on forehand. But it also means that you will make some mistakes. You will lose your first customers. They will probably never come back to you because you had a shitty logistics center system for that country, or you didn't deliver the quality they are expecting in that country. And sometimes you over deliver because in the Netherlands we are pretty spoiled with all the options we have, where in other countries people are fine waiting 2 to 5 days on a package. But we learn every day. We also have seen that we send out packages to places in France where we paid 50 euros for sending. Well, I can tell you that doesn't deliver you profit, but if you look at the total, we make profit. Don't be afraid. But it's all learnings along the way. But,
So what you're saying is more like a hustling strategy. Set it up quickly. Get the vital elements in place. Delivery, payments. I have to think about Czech, who was a guest in one of our events, and they went to it's from the shared scooters. And they went to Germany, but they didn't have PayPal as a payment method, and they didn't took into account the steps. There was a huge competition there. So, going into market very quickly, but make sure that you got the vitals in place to be capable of compete. Which also brings me to a different question, where expanding to different countries. I see a huge trend in the platform economy. You see in the Netherlands, Decathlon, Blokker, Kruidvat, all these companies moving towards platform. What is your vision on that, and how are your brands dealing with that trend?
Well, we are of course not a platform, but we are active on platforms. I think the idea of being a platform is a very interesting goal, and I understand why they are doing it, because if you become a platform, then you are the starting point. You are actually competing then with Google and Amazon, and we are also competing with Google and Amazon, even if we don't know it, because we need them to get traffic. And at the end of the day, you want to be the starting point. So I like the idea of a platform because it creates an environment, but it's really, really hard. So, and if you want to change from a web shop to a platform, I think that's a huge undertaking. I think Decathlon and these kind of shops are really, really big and have huge investors for these kind of cases, but I think they will not make profit the first years to create such an environment. It could be a future environment, but for us it could be definitely an opportunity in the future, because there is not a sexual wellness platform. Except we are. I think we already are, because consumers can just buy this. This is the commercial person talking into me. But at the end of the day, you want to be and on the one hand, as a platform, you also have a different way of guiding your customers. As a web shop, you can say, we are the specialists, we become the expert, we can deliver unique content, you can create content every day which is connected to your specific needs of your consumer, where a platform will be more of an general approach, even though when it's in a niche like, and Decathlon is of course a huge niche, but it's a niche of sporting gears and clothing and whatsoever. Where are you going to write about if you have hundreds of other clients who are also working on your platform? Then I think it will become more a general approach, and the opportunity there lays in creating still you're being the expert in the niche, and that's hard to. That's the choice you have, but yeah, I like the idea of platforms, to be honest. I mean,
And other platforms besides, I imagine that you're using Amazon. You just talked about it, and maybe Bol. And I don't really see your product ending up somewhere at the Kruidvat. But maybe why not?
why not? No.
Other platforms that you see are in your growth strategy for this year?
Well, we are actually, from a B2B perspective, we're already talking with a lot of mainstreams, and you already have seen it also in the HEMA, which I think is very mainstream. So that's definitely a very good way to increase your coverage of your brand, but also being offline available for consumers. And a lot of people love easytoys, so in that case you have a broader approach, but we're also always looking online, like, okay, how can we expand, how do we increase our community, and how can we help our community. So it's not all about having the channels for direct conversion, but it's also building your database by sharing good information, by being on trends, educating people, and really breaking the taboos together with the people and talking about it. So in that way, we are always looking like, hey, how can we grow? But we're also thinking about how can we connect with the consumer, that they also can create content for us and together with us. So, but these plans.
Maybe collaboration with OnlyFans. And you were talking about maybe moving towards platform and
well, I see that opportunity. I don't say that the organization sees that opportunity. So
no, but it's maybe a little bridge towards your vision on the future of easytoys. So this is obviously a potential direction that you can go into. Can you bring us along maybe in the future of easytoys, and how you, because we spoke about your targets and they're really ambitious, and which I like. What does easytoys look like in 3-5 years?
Well, in my opinion, 3 to 5 years, easytoys is like a Google. It's a search term for being sexual active, having a very nice sexual wellness life, or even wellness. So 3 to 5 years, I think sex toys are not taboo anymore. It's more about normalizing. So, and now there's still a taboo, not that lot, but it's still a taboo. In the Netherlands, it's probably a bit less than other countries, but it's still, and I think in 3 to 5 years, we see it with some product brands, so we already have that, but I would definitely dream of to become a household brand. So people are now drinking cola, which is actually a brand name. So in the future, maybe people will say, if they want to be sexual active with toys or whatsoever, they say, we're going to easytoys tonight.
Yeah.
That would be
I
fun.
think the moment when I get Christmas presents from my parents-in-law, which is from easytoys, then I guess you realize your mission to make it that of a commodity that it's being gifted by
Yes.
the parents-in-law. So one last question before we wrap it up. This podcast is called Redefine Growth. It should not only be about profit, but also making a positive impact. I know behind the scenes you are doing some things positively impacting the world and people. Can you explain us a little bit and maybe tell other e-com brands how they can have a responsible brand in terms of making a positive impact?
Yeah, so we do a few things which also are a lot of responsibilities when you become bigger and bigger. People also expect it from you. So what we did, for example, and what we're still doing, if we look from a brand perspective, we are. For example, we did the testicle campaign, check your balls, which is actually where we got a lot of positive results also from consumers. They said, okay, I didn't know this. And some people actually said, okay, thanks to you, I actually, it's not positive, but I found it out that I actually had a problem. So these kind of things we do together with sponsorships, or we say, okay, we do also something for a good cause, we need to create that. And also on the background, we have, I'm not in everything of these kind of experts, but we also have on the background a team who was actually looking at how can we adopt our processes. For example, we have a packaging system which actually tries to delete all the air out of the packaging, which creates less trafficking for the orders. So they are working on all kind of different sustainable things. I believe there's also a fiberator recycle program because it's hard products, but there is a recycle program active. And there are all kind of, and recycling sounds awful when we talk about in our industry, but it gets molten and it gets started up again. I don't know how the process actually works, but it's very.
That's why I like it, but because people think like, how do you recycle it? But that's, I think, PR value as well, right? So easytoys starts huge recycling program for vibrators. I can see that on a headline somewhere.
I can see that
because people don't.
I can see that as well, but on the other hand, we said, do we need to brag about these things, or do we need to have them in place? So it's always a bit where do you get PR for, and where you can say, okay, this is PR worthy because it really helps people in the world. Yeah, then I think it's always PR worthy. But there's always a slight line between being commercial about being proactive, helping out where you can, and being commercially positive. And I always like to be commercially positive, definitely. But I know in the world we're living now, also people have a lot of opinion about being active. We're also active with Gay Pride, which we say is very good for the community in the world. But also some people say, it's commercially driven. We see a one-on-one fit. We also did a huge campaign last year where we said pink forever, where we actually say always pink because, this is how we live. This is the world. And there was a huge... I don't know the exact, but there was a huge statement about it, and I think it was a really good statement, and also a very positive sentiment about it. So, a lot of things.
Inspiring too.
A lot of things are happening.
Be humble, is what you're saying. I believe that it's okay to inspire others as well, without greenwashing and without. So you have to be. Very transparent about what you do or what you don't yet do, right? So if we're looking at Sprints and Sneakers, we're not there yet, but at least we're trying and we have goals, we set targets, and we're trying, but we're not there yet. So we're also communicating about where we still need to improve, and I think that's an important thing, and it's good, especially when you become a bigger brand. You take responsibility, but also don't wait for it to become a bigger brand, but also start doing it. So,
No, we have a whole ESG team in house, but yeah, I'm not part of that team because I wouldn't be the perfect fit for that team. But I definitely know they're working really, really hard on it. So that's why
good to
I
hear.
not always know the exact details. Not always at the time, but also there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. It was great having you here. We spoke about a little less successful campaigns in Poland, viral campaigns with FC Emmen, some successful growth tactics that you've done, the experimental culture that you have at easytoys. I think it was a great episode for the listeners, especially in the e-com space. I want to thank you so much for not being here physically, but being here on the pod. And I hope to see you soon live, maybe when I'm going to our office in Groningen. We can meet for a coffee. Thanks again. Normally I hand over a Sprinter Sneakers sweater, but I'll make sure that you get that in your mail, and hope to see you soon.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening and watching to this episode of the Redefine Growth podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I really did. It was super interesting again, and I hope to see you next time. Please like and subscribe if you liked it, and see you then.